All right. Thank you so much for coming here. Today is Friday. We are going to work on our third student success workshop for the College of Humanities and Social Sciences. Our topic today is career planning and exploration. My name is Diana Kay. I am the academic success advisor for the college. I have met with most of you before. We work with the PASS program. We work with the peer student mentorship program. And I know we also have some students here from our CHSS courses. So thank you so much for coming. And we are going to start. So I'm going to share my presentation here. And I'm just going to ask if you guys can see it. Is everybody being able to see it online? Yes. Can you see it? Let me see. I think what I have to do is, of course, I need to share my screen. You know, technical difficulties all the time. Okay, now I think you can see it. Thumbs up, Isabella, perfect, awesome. I'm also gonna put my little chat box here so we can see any comments that you guys have. So let me put that here. How do I find my chat box? And as I always say in all my presentations, I'm okay with computers, but there can always be a little bit of issues with me, you know, user errors. So here is my chat box. Okay, so we are going to start. Thank you so much for your patience. All right. So why aren't you starting? Okay, so let's just go ahead and try one last time. Okay. All right, so I guess we're just gonna have to play with it this way. It's okay, we can figure it out, right? Okay, so career planning and exploration. We have really, really wonderful materials here for you guys. We are going to have one of our amazing guest speakers here. Her name is Rachel. She is one of the assistant directors for University Career Services, and she's going to join us in just a few minutes. She's actually here, but for some reason I cannot continue with the next slide. Okay, for some reason, oh, I know what it is. I think this is what's happening. My gosh. I'm sorry. Yeah, I know, right? So, okay, I gotta click on this. Okay, I think for some reason it's just doing things like this, but we have so many different things that we're gonna be talking about with you guys today. A lot in the world of career exploration, understanding where we are going to be heading in terms of our future working goals, professional development goals, career expectations. So we're going to look into the important aspects of major career decision making, right? It's not an easy process. There's a lot that needs to be considered. And so we're going to look at these different factors that are involved in the decision-making process. We're going to be learning a little bit about more in terms of the resources and ways to gather information to have that good way to get those decision-making with a very informed, background for all this decisions that you need to take. We're going to look into develop one next step. Not your entire life mission, of course. This is it's just 1 hour. We would love to get a lot of things here, provide you with all these different informations and awesome tips and tools that we're going to work on at least one step and feel more prepared to design a professional future, right? We do have lots of resources, links, additional information. I will be sharing this presentation with all of our attendees here. So don't worry about, copying links or things like that. We will have that information available for you. I will be sending that in an email. So that's what we're gonna be doing today. Rachel, would you like to join us here? Sure. Yes, I actually brought my wireless, keyboard and my wireless mouse and things like that, so you can work a little bit here. And I apologize for all the different screens that we have here.
That's okay. We want to see the chat, right?
Right, yes.
All right. So friends, hello and welcome and good morning. And thank you for being with us. So as Diana mentioned, my name is Rachel Lindsay. I am the Assistant Director for Career Education in University Career Services. But I work a lot specifically with CHSS students on career development, career planning, thinking about the ways what you are studying will serve you in your next career steps. And so those of you who are in person with us today will see you got copies of our paper career readiness guide. Those of you who are not with us, I put the URL and a QR code so that if you want to pull it up, you are welcome and able to do that. But also, I would recommend in general doing that, saving it, downloading it. It is a fillable PDF, and we're going to talk about a lot of the different elements of what career research and career planning can look like. But I don't want you to feel you have to do all of it today. And one of the things that we know, and one of the things that I'm suggesting on the slide, is to look for the 10-minute challenges throughout that guide. We know that you're all in different places in your sort of planning process. We know that you have different kind of amounts of time and different goals and all of that. And so the way this guide is set up, there are chunks of information, but we also have these quick challenges. So if you're feeling like, I'd like to make some progress, I'm not sure where to start, but I need something manageable, these 10-minute challenges are really helpful. And so if you prefer a paper copy and you're not with us today, they are always in University Career Services over in Sub 1. And you can download and fill and keep coming back to and editing and modifying if you prefer that. So that's where we are.
And I'll have to click on the slides directly. There you go.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to double click. There we go. All right. So one of the things that we often talk to students about in career services is the idea of this career readiness equation, and becoming career ready. So does this equation look familiar to anybody? Has anyone seen this before? No. Okay. So good, and then I'm not boring you with old information. One of the things that we know from talking a lot to alumni and to employers is that there are kind of some basic elements to getting career ready. And before I even get into what they are, I'm going to ask you all, does anyone feel like they know what it means to be career ready? Like when I say career ready, what am I saying? And if you're virtual and you want to just throw something in the chat for us, or raise your hand, or if you're in person and you want to talk, any of the above will work. What do I mean when I say career ready? Yeah.
I would say that you have like all of your prerequisites that you would need. Like you have your degree that you would need for your career. You have some experience. You have all the, backup, the tools that you need before your career, I would say.
Okay, so just having kind of done the work and have the tools to it. Anybody want to add anything to that? Anyone thinking of anything different?
So for career ready in general, or so
Yeah, so just in general, if I said, yes, you're career ready, what would I mean when I said that?
you have the necessary tools and knowledge in order to go out and have a successful career, or at least obtain a career.
Yeah, I mean, I think both of those are really good answers. And I think you both get it at the core of it, which is having the things that you need to have in order to go out and achieve that next step, right? And I think the important piece of this is knowing that it's not just your diploma, right? We often talk to students who say things like, well, right now I'm concentrating on school and I will worry about that other stuff next, right? Like once I've got my degree, I'll worry about the other things. And of course, the challenge to that is that being career ready is not like a switch we flip, right? And so when we hand you a diploma, that doesn't mean that you can suddenly go out and achieve the things. And you all have probably seen and experienced that frustration of looking at position descriptions where they say, it's entry level, but you must have 6 months of experience. And you're like, well, how do I do that, right? So we're going to talk about that today, but we also wanted to kind of break it down. When we say to be career ready, we don't want you to feel like you have to know and do all the things that you'll ever need in your whole career. That's not what it means, right? And I think sometimes it can feel really overwhelming if students are thinking about what some of the other professionals they know have accomplished, or like maybe their family members who are much farther along in their careers, and they're like, well, I haven't done any of those things. I'm nowhere near ready. And we don't want you to feel like you need to be, but we want you to have a sense of like, what are the things that should be happening? So to achieve that sort of first career goal that you might have set for yourself after Mason, kind of the basic elements that we have found from research and talking to employers, talking to alumni, you're going to need to earn your degree, of course, right? And you're all here and you're all working on that. But when we talk about earning a degree, we don't just mean having the diploma. We also mean choosing your degree and thinking about how you'll use your degree, right? And so not just I'm getting this BA in history, but like, and this serves me in this way. We usually recommend at least 2 forms of relevant experience that can be very different depending on what your goals are. And we'll talk a little bit about how to kind of piece that together. And then the ability to market yourself, which we're not really going to talk about today. But what we really mean by that is having the ability to, articulate to others what you know and what you can do because of that education and experience. So that could be a resume, it could be LinkedIn, it could be interview skills, it could be like a portfolio online. It could be a lot of things, but whichever of those things that you have, they should be helping you in this goal of articulating what you know and what you can do, and how that helps you achieve the goals that you set, or how that has prepared you. So that actually seems to work better. So when we think about that, right, all of that is to get to this idea of like what brings you purpose, because I think that's often a good start point. So that's the intersection of those things that you do well, those things that you want to spend your time and energy on, and the things that the world needs, but also the things that the world will support financially and will pay you to do. But all of that at its core is really about aligning who you are with what you do to help you have a more sustainable career path. And one of the things that we know from a lot of research is that most people have more career success and more career satisfaction when they are doing the work that they feel like is in alignment with who they are as a human, right? It's a good match for their values, their interests, their personalities, and their skills. And I think my best example of that is, I'm not going to ask you to call out a class, but can everyone here think of at least one class they've taken that just was not interesting to them? And what was it like to get through the assignments for that class? Sad, rough, yeah. Was that the stuff you couldn't wait to do, or was that the stuff you put off to the last minute?
Probably the last minute.
Yep. So it wasn't fun. It made us sad. We avoided it. So I'm guessing you know where I'm going with this, but imagine what your 40 or 60-hour work week for the next 40 years might look like if you're basing it on, well, someone told me that you can make a lot of money on it, and I'm kind of okay at it, but it is kind of boring and I kind of hate it. And it's like my least favorite class as an undergraduate student, right? How sustainable does that feel? Right? And so thinking about the work that you choose in a similar way, right? Like, it aligns with my values, and maybe one of my values is being able to sustain my family and support my family, and that's important. So I care about the money, and that's fine, right? No one is saying like, don't think about that. But think about all of those sort of parts and pieces that are important to you and how you find work that aligns with all of that. And I'm going to give you the good news, bad news of our conversation today. We're not going to figure that out today in 1 hour or less, right? Hopefully, even if that's a little disappointing, it also takes the pressure off, right? I'm not telling you that by the end of the day, today, Friday, you will know your purpose and your mission and your life's work. But what I want for us to be able to do today is come up with each of you to have at least one next step, right? Figure out how far along on this pathway you are, figure out where are some places that you can maybe take an action to move forward, and then identify like one, right? One next step that you might take that would help you advance towards a goal. Does all of that make sense?
It does. Yeah.
Any questions from anyone so far? I am keeping an eye on you in the chat, so if you have questions, please do throw them there.
Rachel, I was wondering if we can hear just briefly, of course, we don't have a lot of time, but based on this, if you could say in 2-3 words, what brings you purpose at this time, at this moment, what would you say? So if you guys on the chat online would like to type some things here, but I want to hear from you here in person. Rita, for example, what brings you purpose? What do you think it is? Helping others? Okay, that's good. Ellie?
Mine's also working towards being able to help others.
Okay.
at a much larger scale than I am now.
Okay, okay, that's great.
I think at the moment, my purpose is my dream.
Uh-huh, your dream.
And then once I sort of get more developed in it, then I'll be part of a bigger community.
Bigger community. And quickly, what's that dream that you have?
I really want to work in cities,
Developing cities, okay.
Okay.
That's a big goal. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the chat, we have being creative and helping others.
Yes, that's cool. Oh, yeah.
I guess just to kind of bounce off with other people, just to help others, but also help see
Helping others.
people grow and develop. It's really satisfying.
It is satisfying. And definitely that's one of those things that you have to stick with throughout your career process.
And so one of the things I love about this is that every one of you had almost the same answer, right? Like something about service, right? Even developing communities, I hear service and service to others and service to a whole. And I'm guessing that every one of you has a slightly different or maybe wildly different version of what that looks like, right? I would say that my purpose is helping recent students, right? And I don't know if any one of you here would think that the job I do right now is the job you want to do, and that's okay. I'm not insulted. But I think everyone in the room, and I'm guessing you too, Diana, right? A big piece of
Yes.
your purpose is helping others.
I love helping others.
And we might have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 10 different career paths in this room. So we start with purpose, but we can't end with purpose also, because there's more to it, right? And so if you're thinking about that career readiness equation, pieces of how you get towards your purpose and what the specifics of your version look like are going to include things like your education and the experiences you have. And I'm not a huge fan of reading quotes to people, but I feel like the font might be a little teensy, so I'm going to go ahead and do it. So this is advice from a Mason student: to find the intersection between what you enjoy and what the world needs, to be open to opportunity, reach out to others in a field you may be interested in, and be unafraid of asking questions, even seemingly dumb ones, which I cannot co-sign enough, right? Because how do you know? And if no one ever told you, how would you know? Remember that it shouldn't matter how long it takes to achieve something if it's what you truly want, and not to worry if it feels like you don't fit into what is considered typical for a certain role. Remember that failure is okay, because you still gain something and still grow from the process of working towards the goal. And I love this quote because it kind of speaks to everything we're going to talk about today, everything we've talked about so far, and everything that we will say moving forward. So does anyone want to throw anything out? Thoughts, questions, reactions at this point? Okay, it's pretty self-explanatory, but I like it as a framing. And I like that it didn't come from me. So as we start to think about those ways to choose a career, we tend to think about sort of 3 versions or 3 options of places to start. And one of the things that you're going to notice, and this is all on our website in Career Services if you want more of the details, so that's why the QR code is here, and the URL as well. But you'll notice I don't have these numbered as like 1, 2, or 3. There's not a right start point. And I know that for different people, there are different places that you might want to start with your decision making. And so you might want to read about it, right? You might want to learn more about the careers available to you in your major, what kind of job roles are out there and that sort of stuff, using some online resources. If you go to this gmu.edu/careers-choose, one of the websites you will see is one called What Can I Do with This Major? You can't just Google it because it's behind a paywall, so go through our site. But what I love about this website is that you can look up any major and you will see a bunch of different areas where you might work, right? And you will see types of employers you might work for, and you'll get some strategies based on which of those areas of work and types of employers are interesting to you. I just think that that's so helpful. We also have other places where you can look up like industry specific resources and learn about job functions by industry. So sort of areas of work and areas of service and things like that. So if you're someone who needs to just read about it first and really get a sense of what's out there are ways to do that. Some folks find that they prefer to talk about it, right? Like to start with a discussion. And so connecting with people in your communities to learn about what they do, whether that is your peers in your program, whether that's your faculty, your academic advisor, whether that is someone from career services, either a career counselor or an industry advisor, or whether that is someone else altogether, someone that you know from friends or family or from your current work. Talk to the people in your community. And if you need help getting started with that, we also have some things on the same page about how to start connecting and having those conversations. And we even have some sample questions. So like I said, one of the things that we're really aware of is that for different folks, different start points might make sense. And so that's why we're not going to walk through all of these today. I'm not going to ask each of you to spend like 5 minutes doing this and then spend 5 minutes on that. Because some of these pieces may not be that helpful to you. You may have done them already, or they may just not be the one that is helpful for you. And the last one, and we're going to spend a little bit more time talking about this one, just because I think the details of it are a little more complex, is the trying it out, right? Like actually getting hands-on experience. And sometimes I think that can be, let me rephrase. Does that feel challenging sometimes to you all, the idea of like, how would I even try that out? How would I go out and test it? Yeah, it is, right? Because there you probably have to have some kind of connection. You might need to know some organization where you could try it. There are some things that they won't let you do it until you've studied it, right? So that part can be tricky. And what we want to really think about is how to start getting that experience, especially if you're thinking, well, I don't know if I want to commit to this yet because I don't actually know what it looks like, right? And I talked to, I have a cousin who does it and I asked them some questions, but I realized that my cousin loves what they do, but maybe I still want to know. Right. So like my cousin saying, yes, it's awesome. It's great. But is that enough for me? So we're going to talk more about that piece. But before we even do, what I want to know from you all at this moment is, of the 3 ways to choose a career as a start point, who here feels like reading about it is a good start point for them?
I think I do.
I definitely do.
Yeah.
Who wants to start by talking to other folks?
Most of us, yeah.
Yep, a couple of folks. And then who wants to just get out there and try some stuff? I want to get moving. Okay. And some of us want all of the above, and that's great too, right?
Yeah.
The reality is, I think this is kind of cyclical, right? I think you can do all the reading in the world, get up all the conversations in the world, and then when you get there, you may find that you hate it, right? So I think it's not just one of these, but it's like, which is the starting point for you? So let's talk a little, something has happened. Let's talk about some of the ways that you might try it out. So of course, there's your coursework, right? And you're all doing that. How is coursework treating you as a way to try it out? Anyone have any reactions to that as a space? Yeah.
I think it's good because sometimes you take a class and you realize it's kind of like good and bad. Like, like I really like this, and I might have to figure out a way to squeeze this into my actual the things that I do in my life.
Okay.
That's
So
happened to me at least.
you learned and you've liked it, and now I have to figure out what I'm going to do with what I've learned about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else have thoughts on coursework?
I think maybe the opposite, where you take a class and realize maybe it's part of your major and you realize you absolutely hate it. It's really boring.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah, maybe you realize that major or even just the class itself isn't for you.
Yeah. Well, and then you have to figure out, like, what did I just learn? Did I just learn that this whole major is the worst? Or did I learn that this is an element that I'm not interested in, right? Like, what do I do with what I've learned? And how do I adjust my plan? Yeah. And of course it makes a huge difference. Is it just sort of like, yeah, I'm required to take this, let's say I'm an English major and I'm required to take some Renaissance literature. It turns out I don't like that. That's not my genre. But I just have to take this one class and I'm done, and that's fine. Or are we talking something more like, I have to take statistics. I hate it. I'm bad at it. I'm struggling. And oh yes, it turns out that's a big part of the work I'll do in my career. And that's why they're making me take this class, right? Like the stakes might be different, but coursework is a great way to figure that out. What about organizations, either student organizations or professional? Has anyone tested any of those yet? Okay. So we have a link further back in the slide deck for ways to do that. I would really recommend it. It can be really low stakes. It can be really valuable to do. And the nice thing about professional associations in particular, so student orgs are here, they're on campus, they're available very easily. Professional associations also often have either low cost or no cost opportunities for students. A lot of places are hosting free webinars at the moment where like you just have to sign up, and it's a great way to find out what's going on in the field and figure out what the stuff you're learning about in class looks like in practice, and what the practitioners of that work think about and talk about. Wanted to make a special call out to micro internships. Who here's heard of a micro internship before?
I vaguely heard about it, but definitely it sounds like something like a very, very transitional, very short type of internship.
It is. It's a tiny one. Yes, it's
Yeah.
micro. Exactly. So they're short term. They are project based. They're often completely remote. There's a link on our career services website to an organization called Parker Dewey that hosts a lot of micro internships. So what happens is employers post these like, we need help with a project. I don't need a full-on intern. I don't need someone for 16 weeks. I don't want to supervise a person, but I have a project and I could use that kind of intern level help. I think it can be really beneficial, especially if you're not sure if you like it and you don't necessarily want to commit to a 16-week internship. And I think it can also be really helpful if you're just not sure you have a lot of experience yet, right? So those are two ways to kind of start getting that extra experience and really building your credentials and your work history without that huge commitment. And I have seen a wide variety of them, ranging from like database building to marketing and communications. So there's a lot of different versions of these floating around, but they're basically project-based. And then there are more traditional internships, right? Applied learning in a professional setting. I said 14, 15 weeks earlier, because that's kind of your traditional semester-long placement. But a lot of times it depends on the hours, and especially if you're doing it for class credit, it'll depend on how many credits you're earning, right? Like a 1-credit internship is going to involve a lot less work hours than a 6-credit internship. And so that's where you're going to want to check in your department and that sort of stuff. There's also volunteering, which is great for low commitment, flexible opportunities, especially if you're interested in that mission-driven work. And you really want to see what it's like to be at those kinds of organizations. So it's a great sort of just get it going. And then of course, I have part-time jobs listed here, but I think work in general. It could be short-term, it could be longer term. And one of the ways I want to encourage people to think creatively about work is, you know, I said earlier, sometimes they don't let you do the work until you've got the degree and you're ready to do it. Sometimes just being at the organization where the work is done can be really helpful, right? You can learn a lot about how the organizations that do the work are structured. You can learn what it looks like to be in that space when the work is happening. So if, for example, you're interested in becoming, I don't know, a counselor or a lawyer, they're probably not going to let you do that without a whole lot of formal training. But if you are even just sitting, say, like at a front desk or in an administrative role, you're going to be sitting in staff meetings where you find out what people talk about, what the work looks like. So it's a good way to get exposure and build your experience along the way.
Yeah. Rachel,
yes.
Kim online, she's telling us that she has been a preschool teacher and assistant. So she has a little bit of an idea of what to find, right, in her future career. Kim, I'm super curious. So what's your major and how did you find this opportunity to become a preschool teacher? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Hi. Yes. My mother-in-law, so talking to somebody, had a long career as a preschool teacher and really enjoyed it. And I also had children at the time, or well, I still do, and they were needing preschool. And speaking to the teachers in their preschool, I became interested. And so that was a career change for me coming out of the service industry. And now both preschool and service industry were helping type environments. So I'm in the School of Psychology to kind of have a way to bridge like families and preschool and trying to help them out with their moving on to education. I'm hoping.
Okay. I think that's a great example of taking different experiences and seeing what kind of the themes are that come together from your different positive experiences and having some purpose. And then it sounds, Kim, and you can just sum up, you don't have to talk if you don't want, but it sounds like you're still piecing together exactly what that next step is, but it's being really well informed by your past experiences. Yeah, and that's exactly what I would say sounds like the perfect pathway. You've tested some things, you've seen what you've liked, you've seen what you would like to do differently, and you're still piecing it together, but you've been reflecting, reassessing. Yeah, and actually, we're going to talk about all of that in a second. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just.
Oh, your thumbs up. Okay. So the next piece of what I have for you, and I realize these are a little small, and maybe not as readable as I would like. But you will be getting copies of the slide deck. What I wanted to show you is this idea of the different ways that your degree can take you based on the experiences and the sort of individualized components of that, right? So do we have anyone here who's a comm major?
Anybody online?
So we don't need to spend a ton of time on comm per se, but I think even comm is a really good example, right? You have two different concentrations, you have someone with a minor, you have someone who moves in a more politically oriented direction, you have somebody who ends up being an editorial assistant at an education company. And it has all of these are a communications degree from Mason, right? It's just the experiences and the additional classwork. So the next one is criminology. Do I have any crim friends in the room? Okay, so we're not going to spend a ton of time on the individual examples then. But I wanted you to see, right, like there's a BA, there's a BS, and even with similar concentrations, looking at the different kinds of minors or additional supplemental education and the different kinds of experiences that someone has selected, you may find yourself in a very different place, right? You might find yourself going in a lot of different directions based on those experiences. And then the last one I have is psychology. Any psychology friends? I think Kim, you mentioned psychology. Any others? All right, let's spend a minute more on this one then, because I think it might be more directly relevant. So looking at the BA versus the BS again, right? Looking at different concentrations, looking at what kinds of student organizations someone might join. And of course, you could do lots of these things. And for the purpose of my slide deck, I kind of had to pick focuses. But you all can find lots of different versions of things, whether that's focusing on academia and that accelerated master's and some research related work, or whether that is perhaps not going to grad school. And in my example, I have someone who wasn't admitted. And I wanted to point that out because I think sometimes one of the things that we get stuck on is that idea of I tried a thing and it didn't work, and so it's all a disaster, right? And we had our student quote earlier that talked about how that trying things is really important. And in this case, we had someone who wasn't admitted to graduate school, but that was okay for them because they ended up finding a very different pathway, doing a different kind of work. So I wanted to see that the chart doesn't, I wanted to show you all that the chart doesn't end with not admitted to grad school, right? If it doesn't happen, there are still pathways. But I think you can see that, again, I feel like I'll say this for every one of these examples. When you look at what's different about these different pathways, it's choosing different kinds of specific education experiences, right? It's how I'm going to use my degree. It's what kinds of experiences I've had. And that really moves me in a very specific direction that is different perhaps than my peers who also have the same degree. Is all of this making sense so far? I don't need to say anything else about it. Okay. All right, so then, thanks. We're gonna talk. Boy, this thing is making me work for it. Again, we're not gonna do a whole deep dive onto this. I'm gonna talk about it briefly and then you all can take the slides and sort of follow up on your own when you're ready. But if you have questions about like, okay, that's all great, but so like, where do CHSS students work? And my slide says Mason students, but in reality, the data I'm going to show you next is all CHSS specific. I pulled it up yesterday. So if you want to know, like, what are other Mason students, what are other CHSS students doing? Who here has a LinkedIn account? Okay, excellent. Who is using it to search for alumni and connect with alumni? Did you all know you could do that? Okay, this is a great reason to have LinkedIn. So you can go to the George Mason University LinkedIn page. It's green because it's hyperlinked, so you don't even have to find it. You could use the search box to find alumni, and you can look by what they do or what they studied or where they work. There's a thing to the far right on that screen that says next, and there are more search features. If you want to see them, you just have to click next for more options. But if you're really trying to figure out like, okay, I know that I want to work at this organization or this kind of organization, you could do that sort of search. Or if you know you really want to know, what do other people with psychology degrees do? What do other people who live in Northern Virginia end up doing? Right? There are lots of ways to do those searches and get connected. And so then when we were talking earlier about that whole talk about it idea, you can find folks who are doing the work you want to do, and you can reach out to them. And there's actually sample like boilerplate text that you can modify both in that career readiness guide, as well as in the on our website. So you could like copy and paste and modify that text. I would definitely modify it so it doesn't sound weird, but you don't have to start from scratch. And I think that that's really helpful.
Yeah. Can I talk a little bit about LinkedIn just for a moment?
Absolutely.
I actually love LinkedIn because you can use it throughout not only your time as a Mason student, but once you graduate, once you are maybe switching careers, things like that. But even for just networking, for connections with professors, with other, former classmates, things like that. So I, in my LinkedIn, I have former students who connected with me some time ago, and then they want perhaps a reference, or maybe they just want to ask some questions, and that helps you to broaden your expectations, your ideas as to what to find out there. And even if you're not looking for a job, it's just to see what's happening out there. So yeah, it's absolutely wonderful. You should have one, even if you're not looking for a job. It really helps you to see what's happening out there.
I think the other thing that I would say is that, does anyone here worry at all about like reaching out to professionals, like they feel as though they are asking for favors? You know, feel a little comfortable? Okay. Here's what I would say to those of you who said I'm not worried about that. Excellent. What I would say is, first of all, people love helping students, right? Well, a lot of people do. Most people really like talking about themselves. So like if you're asking for, can I have 20 minutes of your time so that you can tell me about you and your personal journey? Most people would be like, well, yes, I would love to do that. But the other thing that is also true is that in this moment, you may not have anything to offer in return, although you might be surprised by what resources you might be sitting on that this other person could be interested in. But the other thing is that down the line, you might be in a position to share something really great. If you're reaching out to professors, if you're staying in touch with, say, your old internship coordinator, and that person's like, hey, I'm looking for an intern now. Do you know anybody? Or someone like Diana or I, we might write you a letter of reference right now. But in 2 or 3 years, when we're doing a panel and we want to talk about where have successful Mason alumni landed, you might be the folks that we're reaching out to then. So I think thinking about this as less of like a transaction in the moment and more as something that is long-term relationship building and connections is really helpful. But this is a good place to start that process. So we're not going to spend a ton of time on these next slides because I don't know if anyone really wants a bunch of data points from me. But I did want you to just get a sense of outcomes. So for CHSS students who graduated in 2019-2020 year, 40% are employed, almost 40% are in graduate or professional school, and about 20% were still seeking employment. Which is pretty good. It's right about on track with the rest of the university. And I think one of the things to remember with this study is we do it for about 6 months post-graduation, and the average job search usually takes at least a good 6 months. So my guess is if we went back and found some of these folks, we would see even better numbers. But if you're really curious, like, okay, what is happening to CHES students after they get their diplomas? This is what they are telling us. This is what they are reporting. Again, this is a weensy teensy font, and I don't expect you to be able to read it, but if you're curious, I both put the URL in so that you could look it up on your own later and search by your specific major or by specific industries if you were interested. But I wanted you to see, we talked about all of these different kinds of industries, and I've been mentioning that a lot, and I wanted you to see the number of different places that CHES students could end up working, and the number of different areas of work that are available. And so again, if you wanted to get in and play with this and learn more specifics, that will read about it, learn more idea, this is a place that you could do that. And then the last piece of this, I just did like a quick sampling yesterday of some of the employers that are out there that I thought were interesting and some of the different roles, because I wanted, again, for you all to see the variety of options. And so you can see, I just picked a couple letters of the alphabet, but I thought it was really interesting to learn that someone has ended up at the American Red Cross of Alaska.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So listen, I picked what I thought was interesting, and that's what you all are seeing right now. But I wanted you to see a sampling. I will say that Loudoun County and Arlington had very similar kinds of lists to Fairfax County. And I wanted you to see too that we have folks who are self-employed doing an interesting variety of things. So all of this is really just to kind of get you to that idea of there's a variety of options, lots of interesting things out there. And I wanted you to be able to see how to do that research on your own if you had specific deep dive questions you had.
This is absolutely wonderful. I would like to hear from you guys, if you don't mind me, Rachel, just coming back to this one, all these industries, right? Absolutely, all the options. Sometimes we don't think about, I would like to explore this particular industry, right? We think more of this is the job I have in mind, and this is my career, my degree, but look at these industries here and maybe just let us know what you see there that sounds interesting to you, that you would like to explore. I know most of us want to help and want to, be of service of other individuals, but what do you guys see there that sounds or looks interesting? Yes.
I really like the first two.
The first two?
Research and
Green and sustainable. Okay. Yeah, that's wonderful.
I really like science research as well. Is that just those are the percentages of like how many people are in the industry?
I think so.
Percentage
Yes.
of CHES grads from 2019, 2020 who landed in.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. What else do you guys see here that you like? Those in the chat, just type up a couple things there that you might find interesting here. I, for once, obviously education, we love education. But yeah, I mean, if I wasn't in the education industry, I'm pretty sure I would like to be some sort of human services, for sure. I would like to try that. But yeah, definitely, absolutely, so many different options is something that is important to keep in mind, right? That is not limited to, okay, we match my career exactly with whatever the industry that makes sense is what's supposed to be, right? I mean, there are multiple options available.
And we saw, looking at those different pathways, how that can come to be. And I see, I'm trying to see in the chat.
Oh,
there's
yes.
Education, human services, and hospitality, I think is what Kim was mentioning. Yeah, and one of the things that I think is interesting too, if you look at the comparison between the list of industries and some of these job functions. So looking, for example, at Booz Allen Hamilton and the kind of job titles or job functions that you're seeing. I think you might see those in lots of different industries, right? And so the reason I always like to mention that is because I want people thinking in ways that are really broad and open-minded when it comes to sort of what Diana was saying, right? Like I have this degree that's got this name, but that doesn't mean I can only do certain things, right? I can look at different kinds of job functions. I can look at different places where I'd like to work. And if I know my passion is green and sustainable, and I'm not so picky about what I do, but I want to know that that's where I'm working, my process might look a little different than if what I really care about is becoming, for example, a teacher or working in some sort of diplomatic security, right? So just having that sense of like, what is important to me? How do I want to get there? What will get me there the way that I want to go? So as we kind of start moving from that, there we are. The next piece I really wanted to think about is like where you might be in your process individually, so that we can start thinking about what a next step for you might look like. And so this is where I wanted you to have copies of the career readiness guide so that you could kind of flip to some of those activities and start thinking. And so what I'm going to ask you all to do is take like 3 minutes and just thinking about where you are in this process. And I'm going to talk a little bit as you start doing that. But you'll notice we have kind of like these four places in your process, right? But that they are in fact cyclical, right? Because as you learn and you try things out, you might reevaluate, you might take that class where you learn that you really like a certain kind of content or that you really dislike something you thought you liked. And you might do that micro internship or that volunteer experience and realize that I've tested it and I just don't love it. Or I tested it and there were some things I didn't love and now I need to figure out if that changes my feeling about the whole idea or if it changes my feeling about a certain organization, right? But so the idea is doing the research, reflecting, trying things, and evaluating, and then going back and doing maybe some of that over again, right? And I tried to mark for you a couple of the places that you could do your research, a couple of the ways to test things, as well as some of the activities to kind of guide you through reflecting and evaluating. Let me quiet for a minute and let you all look at some of these activities in the guide if you have a copy in front of you.
And for our guys who are online, you guys are welcome to either stop at University Career Services and pick up a copy of the Career Readiness Guide. You can also come here to our undergraduate academic affairs office in the Horizon Hall. We have some additional copies here, so it's a great resource. I love paper copies, so I like to have my physical copy, but students can download a virtual copy from the website.
So as you look at the process, does anyone have a thought about where they are? Do you all feel like you can identify where you are in this process right now? Where would you say?
Where are you in the process?
Somewhere in evaluate or in between research and evaluate.
Okay.
Because I wouldn't say that I've done extensive research about potential jobs, but I definitely have sort of an idealistic future for myself.
Okay.
So that's why I think evaluate might be where I put myself.
Okay.
And I have thought a little bit about potential or where I go after I get my bachelor. So the major to career analysis. I thought a bit about that because it's not as straightforward as I was thought.
Okay.
It's true, it's never straightforward.
Yeah, it's true.
No.
And there are some degrees that I think are very prescriptive, right? Like if you're getting a degree in nursing, probably you have options, but you probably have a pretty good sense of where you would be, right? I think a lot of the majors in the College of Humanities and Social Sciences are a lot less prescriptive. Which is great because they're super flexible, but also puts a lot of the work back on you to do this work more actively. I see Kim is in the coursework and looking towards career analysis. Okay. Okay. Does anyone else kind of see a spot where they sit, or maybe more than one spot where they're sitting? Okay. Okay.
I think I'm in tests as well, but I might have to go back down and come back up. Yeah.
I'd say I'm probably in the test area too,
Testing.
because they know where I'm gonna be. It's just, I don't exactly get to pick
Yeah.
what I'm doing, but we get to see how it all works right now, so I get to make preferences eventually.
Okay. I do want to say one thing here is, yes, it's cyclical. However, this is something that is ongoing throughout basically your lifetime. You might be, you have your job, you're establishing a career in an industry, but you're always thinking like, okay, what other, positions or what other projects I might be involved with in the future. And so you start this process again, right? You start looking, okay, so let's say right now, working as an academic advisor, I might be thinking, okay, what about looking into maybe more, other academic affairs positions. So you start doing the process, right? Researching, reading, talking, reflecting, testing it. So this is a process that you will be engaged with throughout your entire life, basically. Yeah.
The other thing that I actually almost sort of hate this graphic, but I don't have a better one, because I feel like there's a bit of this that's like parallel planning too, right? So you're doing this, but maybe not just on one idea at one moment, looking at multiple things. And so thinking back to our example of the student who didn't get into graduate school, am I looking at multiple options? I might want to go to law school. I might not get in, and do I have a plan? Or like if I decide I actually don't want to do that, what else might I do, right? So I think there's a version of this that is multiple options at the same time. And yes, we have a comment in the chat that I went from the service to hospitality to education, and now like moving in a different way with education. Absolutely. And I think that that's true. And so I think it's thinking about multiple options, especially because some things may not be 100% up to you, right? Or just in that process of testing, you may find, I don't love this part like I thought I would, but I did learn that I like this other thing. So I need to have in my mind a couple of pathways. So what you've got here is a sort of a sampling of some of our 10-minute challenges, right? And these are all things you could do as a next step. It could be discussing options with your major, for students in your major with either an academic advisor or a faculty member. And we've got URLs, so if you're not sure how to get started, we've got them. We've got videos on the career services industry pages describing different career paths. You can always meet with someone in our office if you're feeling like, I just don't even know. I need more help thinking it through. And that can be part of your talking about it. Finding an organization on or off campus to try. Reviewing and registering for career preparation courses. I'm not going to get into a ton about that right now, but there is a URL. So we have courses for helping you find internships, apply to grad school. They're all like 1 credit and no credit options. And if you feel like you need some structured support, those can be a really good choice. And then of course, looking at your major's website, because you may be surprised by what you find if you haven't spent a lot of time on it already. So those are a lot of ideas. But what I wanted to make sure to do is give us a second here to kind of close out with, it's me so much, with one next step. So we have thrown a bunch of ideas to you all. You may have your own, but I would love to hear from each of you. One next step. It doesn't have to be huge, doesn't have to be dramatic. But like, what is one thing that you think you could do to help sort of move forward from where you are in this moment?
I don't know. So just, I guess, because it's so early in my college career, I guess. I think my next step is starting to build my network.
Sure.
Just getting started.
So I'm gonna push a little bit and ask, what do you think would be the thing you would do to start doing that?
I definitely want to talk to my Geography 101 professor.
Okay, I think that's a great choice.
Yeah.
Absolutely, sure. What else? What is one step someone else is gonna take?
I think reaching out for mentors, especially in career path that I want to go, like reaching out to those people who have this experience, so I can kind of just attain more knowledge on the subject as well as, is this the right path for me? Is this something that I really go down that route? So just reaching out to people who have already done it and see their experiences.
Great idea.
I think I probably am gonna do the same thing because I have an idea, but like I had mentioned before with my coursework and the volunteer things that I've been doing on campus, I kind of have some other options that I haven't explored yet, and I need to ask more questions about it because I'll probably have to take my next step in a little bit of a different direction than I was planning. So I definitely have to, search for mentors as well.
I think for me, I have to apply for a job because I'm going to be graduating this semester.
Applying for jobs.
Yeah.
All the folks online. What's your next step?
Oh, looks like we have messages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Looking for internships, passing all of my finals this semester. Yes. Joining a club. I think all of these are great. I'm going to push all of you a little bit because these are more concepts and less action steps, right? So, and I'm not calling any one of you out, but so if the idea is find a job, what is the one first thing that you could do to, and you don't have to answer me, but I want you to think about it. What is the one first thing you could do to start moving towards finding that job? Or if I'm going to look into internships, what is the one first thing I could do? Like, do I know what kind of internships I want? Do I know where to look? So like a super concrete, super actionable next step, because I think that's the piece that transitions this from like, well, I ought to get that done to this is manageable and doable for me. Passing all of your finals is I just endorse that. I don't know what else to say. I think that's a great choice. I think for those of you looking for mentors too, thinking about like, what is my step? Is it updating my LinkedIn? Is it going to the Career Services website and copying and pasting that text to somebody? Is it meeting with an industry advisor to get some advice on how to find that mentor? Is it updating a resume? My goal for you all is that you start moving forward on all of these things. They all sound very valuable and very useful, but I don't think anyone has suggested something that wouldn't be valuable. What I really want for you all to start thinking about is what is that piece that gets me from where I am right now to that next step, right? Like what is the action item? Like if I was going to do one thing this weekend, right? One thing I could make happen in the next 72 hours, what would it be? And you don't have to answer that right now, but I'm going to encourage you to think about it in that way. And to think about like, that's why we give you those 10-minute challenges, right? So it's a slightly more directed, actionable thing where you know that you've done it and you can like check it off your list. So with that said, I know we're at time. I wanted to show you all, just because it's the last slide of the deck and you will have access to it. Lots of good resources, both from Career Services and from the college. So for example, if you wanted to reach out and request that mentoring, there's that Career Connections link where we have templates and instructions. If you're looking for your academic advisor, there's a link there. So lots of choices and options for places to find resources for one next step. And with that said, if you all have questions, I can stick around for a minute or two and just, if there are things that you thought like surely a Career Services person would mention and you're surprised haven't come up, let me know. Do you all remember where I said you could come to find us in our offices? Yes. Yep. Up on the 3rd floor, right above Student Health Services. Yeah. So is there like one last thing I feel like you all should know? Oh, if you didn't know, we have virtual appointments, right? So video and phone options as well as in-person options. And we have a bunch of ways to get resumes reviewed, both using drop-ins in our office 5 days a week, but also you can email careers@gmu.edu with a copy of your resume and get it reviewed. We do request, if you're going to do that, that you send a sample of a job description. along with it, because we can tell you if a resume looks nice, but we can't really tell you if it speaks to the specific experience without something. So if you're thinking like, even if it was like, I'm not applying for this job right this minute, but it's the kind of job I'd like to maybe apply for in like a month, send us that as a sample so that we can start working with you. But yeah, there are a lot of ways to make it happen virtually during evening hours. So find us, we're around.
Rachel, thank you so much for joining us today. It was really valuable, lots of informations that are wonderful for all of us. I'm feeling like maybe I should check my resume and see how it's looking, right? and see what else, what my next step is gonna be. One last thing for those students who are in the past program, if you have additional questions, if you're working on the career module, you can use this information to complete your module. For those students who are taking a chess course, we really hope that this information was of your, very productive and that you're going to work on these things. I will be sending this information to all of you guys. And I want to say thank you. I want to say enjoy this weekend. Have a wonderful time, and we will see you in our next workshop. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Do you want me to leave these extra copies of the guide here for you, or do you think that they will get used?
I can have them.
Okay,
That would be
sure.
absolutely
Uh-huh.
great. Yeah. Thank you so much. I think actually what happens with the computer is because it is connected